In today's video, we're diving into the fascinating life story of Queen Anne Boleyn, a woman who left an indelible mark on the Tudor era. So, let's begin our journey through time, Anne Boleyn's dramatic life story, from ambition to execution. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to help us grow our channel.
Incredible that amidst the political and religious turmoil of the Tudor era, the stories of Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII surpasses the story between Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell, but not by much. Because it stands out as two of the most captivating and controversial one. The story of Anne Boleyn should really be told mix in with Thomas Cromwell, who had a lot to do with who she became, including her rise and how she ended her fall. She was used by so many in her family to help them raise their status in Henry VIII court, that if it happened in today's time it would immediately be under scrutiny and written in social medias and newspapers. And for sure the paparazzi would be all over it. The story of Anne Boleyn reminds me of the death of Diana. The story repeats itself. We should put all these people to shame when we write about them. This story of Anne Boleyn, Thomas Cromwell and the power plays between them is still relevant today. It truly embodies power, politics, and emotion that we can still relate to even in this current day and age. Can we explain or describe deep down who were Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell relationship? Not really. I am at awe of the life and death of Anne Boleyn, this poor young woman, who was manipulated by her many relatives and political enemies at such a young age with nobody to turn to. The story of Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell was of two influential figures in the court of Henry VIII during the Tudor period. Anne Boleyn, she became the second wife of Henry VIII and mother to Queen Elizabeth I. And Thomas Cromwell was a lawyer, statesman, and chief minister of England from 1532 to 1540. They both played such a big role, Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell, in changing the course of history during their time at the Tudor court. They did a lot of scheming together and really changed the course of history. Cromwell was a powerful lawyer who advised Anne Boleyn when she was queen and also was a very big part in her downfall. The rise of Anne Boleyn in the court of Henry VIII. The rise of Anne Boleyn in the court of Henry VIII was a remarkable event in English history. She was a woman of ambition and intellect, and she quickly rose to power at the court of Henry VIII. Her influence on the king's decisions was immense, and she had a profound impact on his reign. Anne Boleyn's rise to power is an example of how women could achieve powerful positions in the 16th century, even in a patriarchal society like England at that time. Her story is one that continues to fascinate historians and readers alike, as it serves as an inspiration for female empowerment even today. The rise of Thomas Cromwell in the court of Henry VIII is a fascinating story of ambition, determination and skill. He was a self-made man who rose from humble beginnings to become an important advisor to the king, and one of the most influential figures in England during his time. His success was due to his intelligence, charisma and ability to navigate the complex political landscape of Tudor England. He played a crucial role in Henry VIII's break with Rome and also helped him secure a male heir. His influence extended beyond politics, as he was also responsible for introducing key reforms such as the dissolution of monasteries and the establishment of new trade routes. Thomas Cromwell's legacy remains an important part of English history today. The court of Henry VIII was a hotbed of political intrigue and power struggles, and the rise of Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell were two of the most influential figures in this period. Both Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell were able to use their skills in court politics to rise to power and influence Henry VIII's decisions. They both had different approaches, with Anne Boleyn using her charm and wit while Thomas Cromwell used his intelligence and cunning. Despite the differences, they both played a major role in the court during this period. The relationship between Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell. Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell had a complicated relationship that was both political and personal in nature. They were allies in the court of King Henry VIII, but their alliance was also rooted in a mutual understanding and respect. While Anne Boleyn was Queen of England, Cromwell served as her chief advisor, helping her navigate the politics of the court. Their relationship went beyond politics, however, with Cromwell providing Anne with emotional support during her tumultuous reign. Together they formed a powerful alliance that helped shape the course of English history. The downfall of Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell. The executions of Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell in 1536 marked a dramatic fall from grace for both figures. If you like the video, please subscribe. Both had been instrumental in the establishment of the Church of England, but their influence and power were not enough to protect them from the wrath of Henry VIII. As a result, their lives ended in execution and their legacies remain shrouded in mystery to this day. Legacy of Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell in history. Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell were two of the most influential figures in English history, leaving a lasting legacy that has been remembered for centuries. Their impact on history was profound, as both were instrumental in reforming the English government and initiating the Protestant Reformation. Moreover, their legacy can still be seen in literature today, with many authors drawing inspiration from their lives and works. From Henry VIII's court to modern novels, their influence is undeniable. This video will explore how Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell impacted history and how their legacy continues to shape our understanding of literature today. I thought this chronological order of some key events in the rise and fall of Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell puts everything in perspective. 1525 King Henry VIII became enamored with Anne Boleyn, who was serving as a lady-in-waiting to his then Queen, Catherine of Aragon. He developed an intense and passionate infatuation for her that would eventually lead to a change in the course of history. 1527 Henry VIII sought an annulment of his marriage to Catherine of Aragon. However, the Pope had refused to grant the request. Although Henry was greatly disappointed by the outcome, he accepted it with grace and understanding. 1532 Anne Boleyn, the ambitious and headstrong woman of noble birth, had been granted the esteemed title of Marquess of Pembroke by King Henry VIII. This was a clear sign that Henry VIII was intent on separating himself away from his current wife, Catherine of Aragon, and in its place begin to court Anne and make her his queen-in-waiting. 1533 After Henry and Anne had secretly tied the knot, she was crowned as queen consort with much enthusiasm from the people. This was a sign of hope and joy for many, as they were thrilled to have such a strong and compassionate ruler at the helm. 1534 In 1534, the Act of Supremacy was passed which made King Henry VIII the supreme head of the Church of England and officially severed its ties with Rome. This significant act broke England away from its centuries-old Catholic faith and allowed it to form its own independent church. It was an iconic moment in English history that has had far-reaching implications for centuries to come. 1535 Thomas Cromwell, a powerful and shrewd politician, was appointed by Henry VIII to be his chief minister and began to use his influence to ambitiously consolidate his power. His efforts helped shape the English monarchy for years to come, and he played an important role in the politics of the era. 1536 Unfortunately, Anne suffered a heartbreaking miscarriage and Henry's attention soon shifted to Jane Seymour. With her health failing, Anne's enemies at court seized the opportunity to continue their malicious plots against her, including Thomas Cromwell, who had recently fallen out of favor with her. May 1536 Anne Boleyn was tragically arrested and charged with adultery, incest, and treason due to the scheming of Thomas Cromwell, who orchestrated her downfall and ensuing trial. Her life was ended prematurely as a result of these false accusations, with her innocence not being proven until centuries later. May 19, 1536 Tragically, Anne was sentenced to death by beheading and carried out at the Tower of London. It was a cruel end for a woman who had been a loyal and devoted supporter of the crown throughout her life. Her execution serves as a stark reminder of the ultimate price that can be paid for political loyalty and power. July 28, 1540 On the 10th of June 1540, Thomas Cromwell was apprehended and charged with treason and heresy against the crown, marking the tragic end to a once powerful figure in Tudor England. The charges against him were severe and he was soon found guilty by a jury of his peers, leading to his arrest and eventual execution. Despite this dark period in history, Thomas Cromwell remains an iconic figure who left an indelible mark on British history. July 29, 1540 On July 28, 1540, Thomas Cromwell, former Chief Minister to Henry VIII of England, was executed at the Tower of London in a tragic and unfortunate end to his life. Despite pleas from many people to save him from execution, the sentence could not be avoided and thus Cromwell suffered a cruel death as he was beheaded at the Tower. What goes around comes around. It's worth noting that while Cromwell played a significant role in Anne's downfall, he also helped to secure her position as queen and was a key figure in the English Reformation. After Anne's execution, Henry married Jane Seymour, who gave birth to his only surviving son, Edward VI. Cromwell also played a major role in arranging Henry's marriage to Anne of Cleves, which ultimately failed and led to Cromwell's downfall. Following Cromwell's execution, Henry married Catherine Howard, who was also later executed for treason. The rise and fall of Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell were part of a larger web of political and religious changes and power struggles during the reign of Henry VIII. In conclusion, the story of Anne Boleyn and Thomas Cromwell will be remembered for generations to come. Their tale has shaped history, providing insight into the complicated life of power and politics in England during the 16th century.
Don't forget to subscribe for additional videos and help us grow our channel.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be a part of my community.